And at 17 years old, my cousin died, who was a big influence in my life. And then my dad died 2 years later. So within that sort of 4-year period, I got myself into the Scotland national team. I actually played every position on the park in a rugby match. I hated the hooker. Oh my God, I hated it. But I just wanted to play and I wanted to be in the team. Yeah, I mean, I played against France once and my back was absolutely shredded. Scars all over it. Just kicked the living daylights out of me. He actually carried my wife home, Gabby, one night because she was a bit drunk. So he put her over her shoulders and carried her home for me. I think my biggest challenge was my school life of being dyslexic and being ashamed of it and not telling people that I was struggling to read and write. I really struggled with reading information, and it wasn't until I was about 28, 29, I told people I struggled at school and I couldn't read and write.
Everyone, I'm Arthur Dickins and this is my Rugby Legends podcast. In each episode, I interview an amazing rugby player or coach to get their insight and advice for young rugby players just like me who are keen to learn and get better. In this episode, I'm speaking with Kenny Logan, ex-Wasps and Scotland winger. Kenny is a legend of the Scottish game, a pacey winger with 70 Scotland caps to his name over an 11-year international career. At domestic level, he made over 100 appearances for Wasps between 1997 and 2003, winning the Premiership twice as well as the Heineken Cup. I hope you find Kenny's knowledge and wisdom as helpful as I did. Enjoy.
Great stuff.
Firstly, Kenny, I just want to say thanks so much for taking the time to be on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
Nice to meet you, Arthur.
Nice to meet you as well. So firstly, Kenny, what did you make of Scotland's Six Nations campaign?
Didn't start very well, but I think in the end it was probably a good Six Nations. We obviously need to try and beat Ireland. That's the problem we've got at the moment. We used to have a problem with England. Now that's an easy problem. We tend to beat them quite a lot. But Ireland's a real problem now. So that's the next big fix. But yeah, it was a good tournament. I think the whole tournament was amazing, in fact, for all teams, probably apart from England.
Did you go to watch any games?
I went to watch the England-Scotland-France game, and then I went to watch the Wales game. So all Scotland wins, actually. Picked the right ones.
Going back in time, you left school at 16 years old, and then rugby went professional when you were 24. Can you tell us about your rugby journey during those years?
Yeah, so I was just, I struggled at school. I was severely dyslexic, so I really struggled. School was hard for me, and my outlet was playing sport. Never mind rugby, just any sort of sport, anything to get out and show that I was good at something. And because I was reasonably quick, I was always quite good. I was good at football, good at rugby, good at athletics. So, as I say, my school life wasn't great, but as I got older, I realised that rugby was the sort of sport that I was going to excel in. But it was obviously amateur, so we didn't look at it as a job. It was more of a, I left school, I was a farmer's son. I went straight to run my dad's farm. And at 17 years old, my cousin died, who was a big influence in my life. And then my dad died 2 years later. So within that sort of 4-year period, I got myself into the Scotland national team. So I played under 18s, under 19s, and then my under 19 trials, I was then picked for Scotland's first team, which is the national team, to go to Australia when I was only 19. And I got my cap when I was 20. So I was having to learn really quickly, and obviously losing my dad, and had a lot of things going on in my head, but running my dad's farm and being amateur and training alongside that, trying to be as professional as I could, was hard work, especially with a knowledge of struggling at school. But I found the next part of my life probably a lot easier than I did at school. And then obviously rugby went professional. I got my first cap, should I say, in Australia in 1992. Gregor Townsend and I went on a tour to Australia with the national team, which we were just going there as young kids to get experience. But in my own head, I was going, right, how do I get in the team? I was desperate to get in the team. And I ended up playing 7 games out of the 8 games on the tour. So I got myself in that team, and then I got myself established-ish. When they say established, I got in, and the following year, I was in and out of the team. Then sort of 93 onwards, I was pretty much in most years without injury or maybe a lack of form. But in general, I was in the team for the next 10, 11 years. So it was a really good period of coming across from amateur to professional.
When you were younger, did you always play winger?
No, I played hooker. I played back row. I actually I've played every position on the park in a rugby match. I hadn't played second row once, and I played second row in a bounce match just so I could play it because I had never played it. I played prop for a wee while. When I was 16, I played back row most of the time as a young kid. I was a bit annoying, so I was quite good at back row. And then I was put on the wing at fullback, which I didn't really enjoy it as much as the back row. And then I realised that I was quicker than everybody else, so I did start to enjoy that. But then when I was 16, I was in the under-18s. My local club was still in county, and they didn't have a hooker, but they had plenty of wingers. So I said, I'll play hooker. So I had a whole season playing hooker for the under-18s and playing wing fullback for the under-16s.
Which was your favourite position out of all of those?
I hated the hooker. Oh my God, I hated it. But I just wanted to play and I wanted to be in the team. But definitely fullback was my favourite position.
What do you like about fullback?
Well, I suppose nowadays the way the wingers are now, the back three is the sort of back three. It used to be you were on the wing and that was your role. I think the great thing about fullback is you see the game. Oh, you're in the middle of the pitch. You can move. You can go wherever you want, and that's the bit I really enjoyed. I like the fact that there was no position. You could go in at 10. You could go in at outside centre. You could just find yourself any holes. You could pick any sort of run off anybody. And then as long as you got back to position or back to the back three, you were in good shape. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that sort of freedom.
Yeah, I actually had a game at fullback on Sunday. It was very fun.
So what's your position?
I play fly half usually, but I think they were giving our other fullback.
So you're skillful.
Yeah, I like to think so.
Good.
But no, it's really fun. You should like to watch the game basically.
Yeah, it's good position. It's good position.
How much did rugby change between the amateur and professional era?
It's changed a lot. I suppose for me, when I was young, it was a dream to play for Scotland or play for my local rugby club, which was in the Premiership in Scotland. That was your dream. To do a job that you love and as a hobby, for it to go professional and then get paid to do something you absolutely adore was the most amazing period of time in 95, 96. I loved my whole journey of being the whole excitement of the game going professional and me moving to London, being a farmer boy, moving to Wasps and having the success we had. But the change was a sort of slow change. It sort of did that and then it was really professional. So within, I would say 2001, it was starting to be really, really professional and everything we did. And when you look at it now, my son's professional rugby player and they've got cameras on them all the time. They've got GPS on them all the time. They're tracked like a dog with a tracker on. So it's a totally different way it was when I played. At the end, we were getting tracked a little bit, but we're nowhere near the way they're getting tracked now. But I think the way the game has moved forward, you're seeing these elite athletes playing sport in all sports now. If you look at any sport 10 years ago, we feel that it's a different sport then than it is now. So I think the way the game's gone is incredible. I think that it's a different pressure for younger players now and older players. Because it's a real job. Then a lot of these players now left school and went into it's their job, where we went into it as a hobby and it became our job.
Reflecting back, which era did you enjoy the most?
I enjoyed the transition being professional, amateur to professional. It was I loved amateur, but in fact, I wouldn't change what I've got now for what I've had as an amateur then. So I had maybe 3 years of amateur and then into professional. But I definitely enjoyed that amateur to professional switch. It was really exciting times. Everything off the field was exciting. On the field, crowds turning up, getting more coverage was incredible. I loved that period.
Yeah, no, I would love it as well. It seems really fun.
Yeah, it was good fun. Bit relaxed, but good.
What's the hardest part about playing on the wing?
I suppose when I first started playing, you used to chase a lot of kicks, and you didn't get much ball, certainly international level. And now that the way the game is now, when I sort of finished playing rugby, it was totally different. You were getting the ball a lot. You were under more pressure, certainly in defence, because the way we started doing these rush defences, it put the winger under a lot of pressure because he was on his own. In the sense that when you've got people inside you or outside you, there's the way they can move, and you can use everybody around you for your advantage. But when you're defending on the wing, you've really got to hit the man with the ball, and if you don't, suddenly you're in trouble. And then if they've got the wheels, they've got a bit more gas than you've got, or they hit a good line, you're beaten, and then suddenly you might not touch the ball for a wee while, and you're mentally going, well, where am I? I've missed that. So I think from a point of view of my thing was having to stay switched on. You had to be switched on all the time, and it was quite tiring. Because I found maybe concentrating hard, being dyslexic and slightly ADHD, so I found it really hard. So I used to have periods in the game where I was really focused. I used to think about being focused, and then when the whistle went, I used to just go like that, right? Forget about rugby, just give yourself a rest and go again. So methods, but I think what was hard was just, you can be outpaced really quickly on the wing. You've got to be on, even if you're quick, you've got to be on the ball.
Exactly that. Which was the best team you played in, and what made them so good?
Do you know what? I think winning tournaments with teams is quite hard. I know a lot of players that might have won something in England, or maybe not won anything with a country, should I say, and won with their clubs, but not loads. I was very lucky at Stirling County when my first club, we won the Scottish Championship, which I grew up with a lot of these players, and from a young age. So imagine you as a 10-year-old still playing in that team 15 years later with 4 or 5 of the guys that you grew up with was really special. And I'll never forget the days of the players that I had, like Ian Jardine, played for Scotland, Kevin McKenzie, Mark McKenzie, Brian Roberts and George Graham, all these players that you wouldn't know, but people that knew my career would know them really well. And I got to play with my cousins in that team, and so I was really lucky that it was a real local club that did well. But when it went professional, to play for Wasps was the best experience I've ever had, to be with some of the best players in the world, and winning tournaments, winning Heineken Cups, winning leagues. We would win most seasons a trophy. So I was very lucky to have that success continuing on in my rugby career, and because it's great to win and win games and get yourself up the league, but when you win a league or you win a tournament, the camaraderie is phenomenal, and you've still got it now. Even when you're retired, you still see them and know that they were part of that team that you were played in.
That is so cool, winning a competition with your cousins.
We only played one game though. It was quite amazing to be in the squad with him. Logan, his name was.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone like me if they wanted to play wing?
Oh God. If you're a young player, work on your pace. Really work on your pace. Work on energy. You need a lot of energy in the wing. And also, when you're not on the ball is the most important thing for a winger, is making sure that you're watching the game, and actually how do you get yourself in a position where if they kick the ball or somebody makes a break, you're there. So really work hard off the ball. I think that's the tip I would give most players that are, never mind if you're a winger, is working hard off the ball. Get yourself into good positions, working to see where the game is going to happen next. Can you be involved in it? Can you make an impact in that moment?
What other position on the rugby pitch did you rely on the most?
I would probably say on the wing, you definitely rely on your 13 outside centre from a defensive point of view. And also then you're working really well with the back three, the full back. So the two key people I'd be thinking about when I'm defending would be the 13 and the full back. How is he helping me? How am I helping him? So that's a key position from a back three point of view. but also understand what the 10's thinking. And also, from a winger point of view, really understanding some of the back row forwards, especially nowadays when they're coming a bit wider, and how you can play off them because they make good dents. Reading a player, expecting the ball from anywhere. If you think about Finn Russell, if you played with someone like Finn and I played with Gregor Townsend, was similar to Finn, but not as good. Finn would be, or Gregor, with the ball could come here, under your legs, whatever. So always expect the ball, so it never should be a shock. That's one thing I'd say to a young player, that, expect the ball from anywhere. So when you're running into an area when the ball can come into it, always expect it's going to come. Even though you think he's coming to the deck, just expect the ball, be ready for it.
Speaking of expecting the ball, like let's say, do you practice and train like if the fly half would kick the ball over and the winger would chase it like crossfield kick?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to practice, and even looking at the ball, how it's spinning, will it spin? If it's spinning the other way, it's going to come back. So almost, you see some players that, they're running up and suddenly they change direction, the ball goes over the guy's head and he catches it. It's because he's reading the ball. And I know this sounds silly, but just watching how the ball's swiveling, how he kicks it. Some 10s kick it and the ball always runs. Some 10s kick it and they can stop it and pull it back. So you've just got to, it's really important to understand the kickers of the ball, more so now than ever, because the way the game is now, there's a lot of kicking. And the more you can understand that, the high ball, how you're jumping, you see now a lot of wingers and back three players are constantly practicing getting the ball back. So they call it the crumbs. So when the ball's getting tapped back, how it's going to come back to you. Can you catch it on the tap back, or have you got to take it on the bounce? Congested areas. So there's a lot of, you've just got to get there and just hold off and watch and look at the ball, really focus on the ball.
Speaking of like the kicking era, would you much prefer like now when they kick it a lot, or back then when they didn't kick it much?
Well, back in the day when they did put a ball up and you caught it, they could take your legs away in the air, so you could land on your head, and the referee would go knock on, no penalties, no yellow cards. So I'd rather be playing now because I think the game's a lot safer now than it's ever been. From head knocks to protecting the player. When I played, you could ruck people. You could stand in any part of their body apart from their head. But everything from their head down was fair game. So it was quite brutal for, if you were caught in a ruck, you knew about it.
That must have been brutal.
Yeah, I played against France once, and my back was absolutely shredded. Scars all over it. Just kicked the living daylights out of me, but that was allowed. That was the argument in those days was, if that was the case, you're on the wrong side. So if you're on the wrong side nowadays, it's a penalty or a free kick or a penalty or a yellow card. Where in those days you could ruck the living daylights out of them by using your feet, by kicking at them, and not kicking but rucking in a backward motion. You're allowed to do that. So you got out very quickly if you can, but if you couldn't get out, and some people would hold you in. Right, so you did get a bit of a kicking.
Gee, how would you recover from these situations, recovery?
Ice. Don't do it again. Learn from your mistakes. You just had to ice it, and I remember once it was so bad I couldn't wear a jersey for about 2 or 3 days. It was just really, really sore, and I had. But that was part of the game in those days. You didn't moan about it. That was just, how you got scars and rucking, and, it was a different part, but different times. But the game now is miles more, players respect that area. So they know that if they're in the wrong place, they're going to get a penalty or a yellow card. So they get out as quick as they can. Where back in the day, you could hang around a little bit longer.
Yeah, no, because I've seen Ben Young's documentary about is rugby safe.
Yeah, exactly. Great documentary.
There it is. Who was the most influential teammate in your career, and what did you learn from them?
That's a good question. I think growing up, I listened to a lot of my coaches were really quite important, very important to me. I suppose from a teammate point of view, for Scotland, Gavin Hastings was very important to me because I really loved, he was a bit of my hero, and then he got to play with him, which was amazing for me as a young kid. So I always respected what he said to me. And I suppose as I got older and went to Wasps, you know, I was very lucky at Wasps with the players we had, with multiple Lions and All Blacks and Irish and Welsh. Lawrence Delalio was a real character to our team, and he's somebody that you would listen to and somebody that you would respect on the field because he would always lead by example. And if he didn't, he would tell you he did lead by example, even if he had a bad game. But he was a great leader of men, and I think it's a bit like if you go to Leicester, they would talk about Martin Johnson. You go to Saracens, they talk about Owen Farrell. So I think every club has this one iconic leader, and I think from a Stirling County point of view, was a guy called Stuart Hamilton, who was the captain and the leader of the team. And the leaders of the teams tend to leave marks on your careers.
Who was the most difficult player you've had to defend against?
Jonah Lomu was quite hard. I think he would be everybody's one, would be somebody that was... I never actually marked him directly, but I had to sometimes try and tackle him, which was literally try. I think once I got both of his legs, and he was still hopping along the ground, and I was 95 kgs. But I think from a point of view of a somebody, Chester Williams was really hard to play against. James Small, I think James Small was really hard because of he was such in your face player. But I think in the modern era was Jason Robinson, was really hard to defend. And the only reason we got good at defending him was probably Sean Ebers telling us how to defend against him. But it was very hard when the coach says, when he comes at you and he stutters with his feet, just keep going at him, just ignore it. But you couldn't ignore it because he was so good, so he would then be always caught flat-footed. So I always found him really hard to play against. And he was a wonderful rugby player.
What Leon Lloyd said about Jonah and Lomu, he literally just like dive at his legs and she's going to dive at his leg, doesn't matter where your head is.
It was almost like trying to trip him up. Because if he went high, he brushed you off. If he went in the middle, he could still drag you along. So to try and stop him from, or try and make him stumble so somebody could then get on top of him. I mean, he was a freak of nature. The guy was just miles in front of everybody else. It was incredible I actually played with him for the Barbarians, which was a great experience to play alongside him.
Was he like a nice guy to talk to?
A great guy. He actually carried my wife home, Gabby, one night because she was a bit drunk. So he put her over her shoulders and carried her home for me. Not that she's heavy, but he offered, so I thought you might as well take her.
If you had your career again and you could choose to play any position on the pitch, which position would you choose?
Maybe 13.
Why 13?
I think it's a great position. I think 10's a great position. But 13 or number 8.
Yeah, that's a good choice. If I could choose, I'd like to play number 8 if I grew a bit.
Would you?
Yeah, it
Why?
seems such a cool position.
Yeah, you get a bit of physicality.
Yeah.
You also get a little. You can be in the backs a little bit, and you can do a bit of running. Yeah, my son's a number 8. He likes number 8, and he used to be a winger, so he's gone from wing to number 8.
What was the biggest challenge you faced as a rugby player?
I think my biggest challenge was my school life of being dyslexic and being ashamed of it, and not telling people that I was struggling to read and write, and I struggled with the moves. I really struggled with reading information with players gave me, and it wasn't until I was about 28, 29, I told people I struggled at school and I couldn't read and write. And I wish I had been braver and told my teammates earlier so they could understand me.
Yeah, a lot of people now, like famous people, have hit dyslexia, like Tom Holland used dyslexia.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And I think it's something I wish I'd spoken about. I think when I was growing up, you were told you're thick and stupid. So if you were told that as a kid, you didn't really want to talk about it. It was more of a shame than, I think now we're definitely a lot more open as in society anyway. But there's a lot of people speaking about dyslexic and issues, and I think it's really important to talk about it.
Yeah, because like as well, like if someone has ADHD, they do say like they can problem solving's a lot easier for them. Like it's like super strengths as well you get from it.
Yeah, exactly. And I know my super strengths from it, so that's good. And I think the way the technology is now, it doesn't affect me at all. I'm not. If I had what I've got now, from a technology point of view at school, I would have really enjoyed school. I would have really embraced that. But I found school really hard. Couldn't wait to get home to the farm. Couldn't wait to get away from it.
What was your favourite moment of your career?
I think you never get away from your first cap. A moment of something that you've always sort of thought about. What would it be like? And what would the feeling be? And then once you get one cap, you go, I'd like another one, and then like another one. And then I want to get to 50, and then I want to get to 700 or whatever it is. And once you get to 50, you sort of relax a little bit because you feel that you always want more. But then you want to win trophies. Winning with Scotland was incredible. And winning all the trophies with Wasps was incredible. But the best moment would be, I don't know, it's really hard. I think I'd go for your first cap, your first moment when you get sort of recognised and you understand what it's like to play for your country.
What would you like rather, 100 caps or winning a World Cup?
World Cup.
Why World Cup?
Well, you see, I think just winning the best tournament in the world would be amazing. I would definitely take 10 caps and be in the World Cup final. How much? I mean, we won the Five Nations of Scotland, which was great to win some of your country. And if you think about Scotland now, I would say Scotland's got one of the best teams we've ever had, and we haven't won a major trophy, which is really, that team deserves to win a trophy, and that team needs to win something. I'd love them to win a World Cup, obviously, but I'd love them to win the Six Nations and or win the Triple Crown. We haven't won that for a long, long time. It's a good bunch of players. The time, it's not running out for them, but they have got 2 or 3 years now. They've got to try and really push on from what happened this year. But yeah, World Cup, you think how hard it is to win a World Cup. I mean, everybody thought England would win the next World Cup after they won the one in 2003, and you're now 20 odd years on and still haven't won another one. So and New Zealand haven't won it for 2 World Cups. South Africa have been very dominant. But yeah, winning the World Cup would be pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I thought England were going to win a World Cup this year or the Six Nations, but yeah, that's...
Yeah, well, it wasn't a good tournament for England. I think Wales ended up come out of it really well. You could see an improvement. Italy really improved. Scotland had a good Six Nations. France would be happy. Ireland at the start, everybody thought they were going to be struggling, get a new coach and all that sort of stuff. Nobody was talking about England failing, which they have. It's one of the worst Six Nations I've had, so I didn't see it coming. But it's hard to win these tournaments. It's hard to... Test match rugby is really hard.
Yeah, definitely. Like England could be Italy, but then Italy could be France, who we lost Six Nations.
It's been the best Six Nations we've had for a long, long time. Not for England, but not for English fans, but for a rugby fan who's just watching, who wants to enjoy the Six Nations. I suppose all the other nations would have really enjoyed the Six Nations, but England's wouldn't have enjoyed it. But it is what it is, right? That's what happens. So you get to your first game in the Six Nations is really important, which was obviously Scotland lost that. Wales lost to England. England were very confident, and then they lost the next one against Scotland, and then suddenly there's a snowball effect. So it's hard. It's a hard tournament.
Yeah, 100%. If there was one thing you could change about your career, what would it be?
Probably like to be in the British Lion would be my only thing. I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't good enough at the time, and you've got to time your run for these Lions tours. But that would be my sort of only regret, I suppose.
What's the biggest life lesson rugby has taught you that you still use today?
I think rugby is really good to build a good character. I think the rugby fans and the rugby players are very good. If you step out of line, they're really good to let you know that that's not good enough, that's not how we behave. So I think that's really important. The camaraderie is amazing. and the life lessons of being a good individual or respecting other people is really important. And that all comes down to respecting the referee, respecting the game and the laws, and also what happens off the field with fans and other players.
Yeah, that's what like rugby coaches say at school. Like when I was younger, you had this wristband if you got like player of the session, and it was like it was like treads. It was like teamwork, respect, encouragement, and I forgot what D was. But no, it was
Defence.
like pardon.
Defence. No,
But yeah, no, my rugby coaches always tell us about that.
yeah. Was it what would the D be? Determination.
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 Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it gives you good values. I think rugby is great for that, and that's one thing I would say. It gives you a really good core as an individual, growing up. And if you step out of line, there's plenty of people to tell you that's not the way we act.
What wisdom do you have now that you wish you had when you started out in the game?
Oh God, that's a good point. I think as you get older, you get to know the game better. I wish I'd got the game quicker in my head as a younger kid. So I sometimes look back and I wish I'd known that then. I know now, and I think that for me is things like working off the ball. I didn't do enough of that when I was a little bit younger. Could I had been a bit more, I think sometimes we're a bit structured. Could I have been a bit more loose and been a bit determined to do different things? Should I have done more yoga, exercise, about the body? We did it at the end, but at the start we were amateur. I was a farmer, so I wasn't doing yoga or Pilates, but I'd definitely be doing that now. I'd be looking at every edge. If I was professional now, I'd be looking at every edge, how to get that 1%, 2%, 3%, 4% gain, and look at a proper plan. Because I think the hard thing for me now, looking back, I was a farmer, it was amateur, then it went professional. Where if I look at my son, if I could give him the knowledge I've got, put in a 20-year-old body, and would he do it? I don't know, but I noticed that and he is doing the yoga, he is doing referees courses, coaching courses to understand as much as he can about the game. And that's one thing I wish I had sort of done that. That's the only thing I would change, is be a bit more professional at the time, because we didn't understand about professionalism. And a lot of the coaches didn't understand either, because nobody had been professional before. Where now everybody's professional. The players are so different, tuned athletes now, where before we were trying to be an athlete, I think.
Yeah, as you said earlier in the interview, like players are always being monitored now. So if like the instructor or someone says you need to do more yoga for something in their body, they'll know straight away.
Yeah, and they'll have to do it. I think, we didn't, I suppose near the end of our careers, we were all doing yoga, Pilates and things like that, and stretching and like wrestling and all these different core skills. For a young player now, there's no excuses really, because there's got so much, the opportunity to all these things are there for them, and the coaches are looking at, say, these little edges constantly to make them better and better and better.
Exactly that. Final question, Kenny.
Yeah.
What's the thing you miss about playing rugby?
You miss the camaraderie. You miss the dressing room. The adrenaline of playing is incredible. I don't miss the hits. I don't miss the aching body, but I do miss that whole togetherness. And also, when you're a professional sportsman, you don't think of anything else apart from your sport and what you're doing. So this is very simple, but even like a diary, you knew that if you played on the Saturday, you had the Sunday off, and the Monday was that day, and the Tuesday was that, and the Wednesday was off. So you knew your week, you knew your year when the games were. But nowadays, because you've got a job, you've got diary stuff, you've got all these things in your head. So back in the day, you were just thinking about one thing. But yeah, I miss the lads, I miss the camaraderie, and the adrenaline from playing rugby is incredible.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. Like after a game, because I play for a rugby club as well, in the changing room after a win, it's amazing.
And what's great is you don't have to be a professional sportsman to get that adrenaline and get that feeling. That's the great thing about the sport we play in. In a lot of sports, especially team sports, you get that great camaraderie and great feeling. And you know, in 10 years' time, you'll know that you were part of that team that won that league or won that game. And that's what's great about the sport.
Yeah, that's why everybody loves it.
Exactly.
First, I just want to say thanks so much for being on our podcast, Kenny. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.
I've loved being a podcast, and good luck. You're a great presenter.
Thank you so much.